I thought what would be really good would be just to roll back right to the start. Well, actually, tell me a little bit about your business in like normal land.
In the real world, you mean?
In the before all this happened.
Okay, so you can see behind me, this is what I do. I put shutters in windows.
Right, yeah.
So my business is in its 4th year of trading. It was started as a project for my husband, who was made redundant from 2 jobs in rapid succession in media land in central London, and that's what we both had done for 20 plus years. We met at Channel 4. He was in digital media. He was in his 40s. The average age of someone in digital media in London is about 12 and a half currently. And so we decided,
I've got lots of friends in media.
Let's reinvent the wheel. And we put our life savings into buying a franchise. And that was purely a project for him. And I carried on working in media land. And I was head of corporate sales and advertising in my last job for View Cinemas nationally. So I ran all the sales team, anything that made money for the cinema chain that wasn't your ticket or your food and beverage came through my team. So all the ads that you saw, the premieres, conferencing. We had lots of churches that used cinemas to host their Sunday services. Yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. Anyway, that's what I did. Yeah. And after a year, the business had grown, and Simon was doing everything beginning to end. So surveying, fitting, installing, you know, selling, the whole kit and caboodle. And we'd just grown that, and he was like, I really need more resource. So we said, well, what do you need? And we talked about it, and basically he described me. And I was like, don't really want to work with my husband, but you know, you need someone who understands sales and marketing and can do your social media and, you know, support you and do your all the back office. So we call it air traffic control.
Right.
So I said, well, I don't really want to schlep up and down to London anymore. I never see our children. We had 2 very small children, so we'll just suck it and see. And we're now in year 4, and we've now got 2 staff. So it's continued to kind of really roller coaster. So we trebled in year 2 our turnover.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah. So having 2 people, and 2 people who have very complementary skill set, like his brain and my brain work very differently. So
probably complement each other.
Or we married the wrong people. Yeah. Isn't it? It's opposites attract, or not. I don't know. No, I think absolutely. He's a numbers person and I'm like a vision person. And so I talk to the gatepost and he doesn't. You know, we're just really opposite. It definitely worked. I think just having more capacity in your business propels your business forward, right? Yeah. I'm really into branding, media, marketing, comms, telling a story, using social media platforms, optimizing all the channels, looking at ROI, all of those things, because that's my background. So I used to do that for Coca-Cola and British Airways and people like that. So I used to devise branded content campaigns for them for Channel 4 or Capital Radio previously. So I just applied all of that to my little tiny world.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure.
God, I learned something in 20 years in media that was useful to me. Hurrah!
So then roll back to so that's the 2nd year, 3rd year then, and it continued to grow until so this would have been your 4th year, or is your 4th year?
This is our 4th year. So we've just closed Q1 year 4. Yes, okay. So we're in Q2 year 4.
So what happened with the announcement of lockdown in March? What was going through your mind?
Probably much like many small business owners, complete pandemonium. So we had been touched by COVID prior to the UK because our products come from a factory in China. They shut for 2 weeks for Chinese New Year every year, and all of the factory workers, 5,000 of them, it's 7 million square foot, the factory. It's the biggest window coverings factory in the world. They all go home to the country.
It's actually, am I right in thinking it's the biggest movement of people in the world at one time?
Correct. So they all go home. The major conurbations are all country folk who've gone to get the job to feed the rest of the family, and they all go home. and they all went home, and then the COVID shutdown happened, and there was an internal travel ban, so no one could go back. So we had this protracted 2-week period that we were scheduling for, expecting low volume, low yield. Like, we know that's annual, that's normal. But then straight off the back of that, they couldn't get back. And their shutdown didn't actually last very long. Retrospectively looking at it, it was pretty masterful. Ours, another kettle of fish. But so they got back up and open in a matter of a few weeks at, say, 60% capacity, which was incredible considering what was going on. And then they just built the capacity from there. But that was the immediate period prior to UK shutdown. So it was a bit rocky to begin with for us, because consumer spending was being dented in the UK. You know, the spend by February, March, it wasn't spend. People were kind of going, oh, this is a bit, what's going on? And your products come from China. And, you know, there was a lot of that going on. So we were already in a rocky place. So then when we got the actual shutdown, like, right, how does our business work? Because we have to go in and out of homes to do our jobs.
Of course.
Fundamental, got to measure your window.
Of course.
So we can't collect deposits because we can't take orders, because we can't survey, and we can't fit, so we can't collect balances. So essentially, zero coming through the books, but we've got overheads. Now, this is our office. I'm in my house. So we don't have commercial premises that are a showroom, but we do have a lockup, which gets increasingly bigger every quarter. It was 75 square foot when we started. It's now hundreds and hundreds of square foot because of the volume of deliveries that we take.
Yeah.
So we have fixed and ongoing property costs, in the words of the government and the council currently, but it's not rateable. It's not. It didn't put us in the right bracket to earn us anything. Drain on our expenses. And we have leased vehicles, and we have products. So once China reopened in March, they were shipping it out there. Those shutters were coming at me, so I couldn't do anything with them. We got to a point where our logistics chain actually shut down. So when the full UK lockdown happened, our factory in the UK said, we're going to stop delivering. But of course, they were still arriving in port because they were already on ships.
Of course.
So we just had this shutter mountain growing in Felixstowe, that when we reopened in May, we then got 1,000 boxes of shutters delivered, or some crazy amount. So we've had to double our storage space just to take the glut for 8 weeks. Anyway, we're getting into a lot of detail there, but essentially our business was completely shut down, with absolutely no support other than furlough for our staff. And we are co-directors, husband and wife. There's no other income in our lives.
And you've got, no doubt, you've got a mortgage, you've got a young family to support. So suddenly being super successful and being excited about the year, you're now faced with something that's completely outside of your control. So what happened next?
So, we shut down, furloughed the staff, furloughed ourselves for a month. And then the whole concept of furlough is bizarre if you're an owner director, because it just means mothballing your business and things like social media, though it's not appropriate to be selling to people during that type of situation. It is appropriate to stay in contact with people and to use social media in a responsible, engaging way, and we couldn't even do that. And inquiries were still coming through. Some people were oblivious to the whole world. I would get checker trade requests. Can you come and survey our windows? And I'm thinking, no, of course I can't. But anyway, in theory, I couldn't respond to those when I was furloughed. So we did this first month, and then it was like, no, that ain't going to work. So Simon came off furlough. So one of us was on, one of us was off, so we could just keep the business alive. But by that point, I had started my new hobby.
What's that mean? What's that then, Gina?
So I joined a Facebook group early April, because when it became apparent that there was just no funding for businesses like mine, I was a bit like, what's going to happen here? And, you know, how's this work? And there must be other people like me. And I watched this group that started, I think I joined it on something like day 1 or day 2 of it existing. Someone else sent me a link and said, you should join this. And it was for directors of small companies. And I joined it and I just watched the ticker on the, you know, followers or members or whatever. It was private and walled, but it was just going up at like a bananas pace. So I just reached out to the woman that started that and I said, this is like a force to be reckoned with. But it's a walled garden, it's an echo chamber. We're not going to achieve anything all sitting in this little space, commiserating each other. You know, it's not productive. So I was like, I think we need to lobby, or we just have to accept our fate. And so Philippa and I agreed that we would make it public, or we would make a public channel and we would lobby. And I spoke to a friend who used to be a spin doctor for David Cameron. And I said, whose kids happen to go to school with my kids. I say, not politically minded at all, particularly. Right. And I said, right, Caroline, I need to do some political shenanigans here. What do I do? Who do I speak to? I need some advice. And she said, now, funnily enough, I know this chap. So I phoned this other stranger. And I said, I need some advice about lobbying and campaigning and politics and stuff. And he was really helpful. And he jumped on a call with me and he offered me some very choice advice and off we went. And that was the 9th of April. So yesterday was the 3-month anniversary of the campaign, Forgotten Ltd.
So what's happened? Tell me about, in a sort of nutshell, what has happened in those 3 months?
Crikey, a lot. So in the early days, it was just about setting up the channels. So just having a Facebook page, having a Twitter handle. I was Twitter person because, you know, that was something that I could do. So I was just constantly tweeting and retweeting and curating and just to get it going. You know, it was a 24/7 thing. It wasn't about Hootsuite. It wasn't about scheduled posts. It was just be on the Twitter feed all day long.
Yeah.
So to begin with, it was just setting it up, and then volunteers started flooding in. About a week after we'd been public, we started to get people saying, can I make you a piece of content? So we'd have a look. Philippa is a graphic designer. So visually it was very strong, our channels, the branding, the look, and we'd had some animations made for us and we'd had some explainer videos and stuff. And people started coming and saying, I want to make something for you. It was the number one sector that we represent is the creative industries, and thank the Lord, because that meant that we had this limitless resource of creators to help us, which was amazing. So people would just come and say, can I do something for you? And I'd just say yes to absolutely everybody. So at the beginning, we got up to about 20 volunteers. And we were global. We had somebody in Japan. We had people, you know, I've never met any of these people, my ad. So I've worked now really closely with these people for 3 months. Never met any of them. And in fact, next Wednesday, I'm very excited. We're going to the Treasury to deliver a petition. And I'm going to meet 2 of my team next Wednesday.
For the first time?
Very exciting for the first time. Yeah. An actual human. We can't touch because we'll be socially distanced, but it'd be really nice to just say, hi, not on a Zoom call.
How big is that petition?
So, okay, so yeah, in the chronology of it all. So when the campaign was picking up pace, somebody, not our group, my ad, a chap called Vince Delamo, who is an accountant, tax assist, and he runs a franchise for them. And predominantly in Southeast London, most of his clients are SMEs or micro biz, really. He set up a parliamentary petition to lobby the government for better support. Parliamentary petitions have to be approved and they traditionally take about a week to get set live, very laborious and red tapey. But in the meantime, Amanda Evans, who I'm also going to meet next Wednesday, very exciting, set up, who is an accountant herself and a small limited company, set up a change.org petition, and they go live straight away. Those bad boys are live. So that petition had been rolling for a week and it's at 346,000 people. Bananas, huge.
Wow.
And then the parliamentary one kicked in, and everyone kind of went, oh, well, I've signed that. And we were like, no, because change.org ones can be ignored. There's no actual cause for redress there. Parliamentary ones can't. So if a parliamentary petition reaches 10,000, it has to have a response. And if it reaches 100,000, it can go forward to be debated by the Petitions Commission.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of a battle on our hands then to say to the 300,000 people that had already signed the other one, hey, come over here and sign this one. But that's what we're still doing. And it's currently at 87,000 people.
Is it? Excellent. Excellent.
It's climbing very slowly. It's killing me, but we will get it to 100,000. So next Wednesday, we're in the fortunate position that Caroline Lucas MP, who is Brighton and Hove, is very supportive of our aims. And Amanda Evans has spoken directly to Caroline, is in good contact with her. And Caroline tabled a backbench debate. I don't know all the right terminology because I learn politics as I go. I've learned an immense amount in the last 3 months. But she requested to be able to present the change.org petition to the Treasury, because that can be done, but you have to get it all approved. And she got the approval to do that. So
right, that's great.
Wednesday we are presenting a number of petitions for other campaign groups, but all essentially people who have fallen outside of the parameters of support. So maternity petition, New Start of Justice. There are a number of petitions for people who fall outside of scope, and they're all being presented to Treasury next Wednesday.
And have you collaborated with those at all, those other groups?
Yeah. So
in a way, it's a bigger voice, isn't it? And one of the challenges with government is them having the bandwidth to cater for the avalanche of lobbying that has come in a very short period of time. So I've certainly seen lots of trade associations collaborate together. So I'm guessing in your position, you'd be doing similar.
Yes, so we have done a few pieces of activity with a united hashtag called Gaps in Support. So we created an alliance, 5 campaigns, annual PAYE, which is an issue very dear to my heart. It doesn't affect me, but I think it's the biggest injustice of the lot. So we've got a lot of directors of 1 in 10 directors of limited companies in our group, when we surveyed, are on annual PAYE. And their RTI date falls after the 19th of March. So there they followed the rules that are set by HMRC and did what was expected of them, filed their accounts as they have done every previous year. Because they were filed after the 19th of March, they're inadmissible for furlough. So even though they've got significant PAYE salaries, and this for these guys, it isn't even about dividends. This is just about being able to furlough per se. So 10% of our group fall into that bracket. So annual PAYE is one of the campaigns we've absolutely heralded. New Start of Justice, we're very closely aligned with the team there, because again, it's not really your fault if you just change jobs, you know. You've really done anything wrong.
No. Well, I mean, I fall within your group. I mean, I'm a limited company boss that pays himself in dividends.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, like many others, which is obviously how I got to know you in the first place. But it's a very worrying position, isn't it? And I mean, the amount of support the government has given, however, is still huge, isn't it? Unprecedented in terms of billions.
I hate that word so much, but it's true. But yes, I hear that word more than any other word.
What, the level of investment? Unprecedented.
Like, a word that is thrown at, you know, because if you write to an MP or a mayor or anybody around this issue, what you get back predominantly, I won't tar them all with the same brush, but predominantly you get back, if it's a Tory MP, the Tory line, and that is unprecedented. You know, there are all these words. We've done this. We've done this. You get back the Rolodex of what they've done.
Yeah.
But it just ignores the point that none of that is applicable to you.
Yeah.
So I was taught early on when I did some media training when I was first giving interviews to answer the question that you wish to have been asked. And that was by a guy who previously had worked at Number 10. And that is how MPs operate. They answer the question that they wish to have been asked. So you ask them a question about why your business is not being supported and your dividends are not being recognised, and their response is to tell you how brilliant CJRS and SEISS is and all the support measures in place.
No, I know.
And you say, well, but hang on a minute, you know.
I'm here to talk. I'm here to talk about this. Yeah. One of the other things, you did a Twitter bomb.
Yeah, we've done a couple.
I loved that, and I'm personally, even though I'm somewhat involved in influencer marketing myself, never been involved in Twitter bomb, and I have to say it was really good fun. And this, the Institute of Directors as well, was completely overwhelmed, weren't they? But I mean, one of the things I loved about what you guys are doing is how you've galvanized people. Because aside from the cause, it's the interaction within the group. I mean, my WhatsApp is constantly going all the time, and I think that's what I think it's been fabulous. Is that what you've created here is a real solid community. But although people are still suffering, and they absolutely are, you shouldn't underestimate the value that you guys have done in actually bringing people together, and also be inspired by other sorts of ideas as to how we're going to get through this.
Yeah, so it's interesting because 89% of our members, when surveyed, said they haven't been able to pivot their business. So their business just didn't enable them to pivot. There's nowhere for them to go. So I can't install virtual shutters. I can't Zoom call you shutters. I could Zoom call to try and sell you shutters, and you might buy them from me, but ultimately, until I can come and measure your window, that's not a transaction.
No.
So 9 out of 10 people are in that same boat as me. We got some brilliant stories of people who have pivoted.
Yeah.
One of our core team is a web developer, and she now runs a pizza delivery service on a Friday and a Saturday night in Cheltenham, called Papa G's. And that's her husband. Her husband cooks the pizzas, and her and her son deliver the pizzas. And they've made like £6,000 or something in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
From pizzas. Incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've galvanized all these people, and we're working through with people. It's like an ideas engine. We've got something called the Forgotten Engine.
But
people go in and they say, oh, I work in commercial cleaning, and my customer's done this, and what should I do about that? And then you just get this, like, boom, you just get all these people coming in with, have you thought about this? Why don't you do that? But sometimes it's just chatter in the group that gives people a solution or makes people think differently. So you get a lot of, oh, I'm a such and such, and I've got this problem. Does anyone else work in the same sector as me? And you immediately get this sort of avalanche of, particularly the beauticians and the dentists at the moment, because there's deep frustrations there. There's a lot of supportive and helpful chatter. We did a training session this morning, actually, which was one of our members, who is a sales trainer, very well respected and well known, and she ran a webinar on using LinkedIn. So B2B, lead generation, networking, and job hunting. Well, that's got to be really valuable skills for this group of people. How
many members have you got actually in the group now?
We just hit 9,000 on Twitter. We just hit 9,000 on Facebook, I think. And they're not necessarily the same.
Okay, yes.
Because I regularly go in, when we're near to a milestone, I go into group and I say, right, I need 27 people to get on LinkedIn and follow us now so that we can hit this now. And you get people going, oh, I don't do LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, use every channel we've got. So there's definite crossover, but there's definite, actually, these are different groups of people. So we're just about to hit 1,000 on LinkedIn, which isn't a primary channel for us, but actually I like using LinkedIn. I've got Instagram as well, so 20,000 people with some crossover, obviously. But
right, and that's for the group. That's for Forgotten Ltd, as opposed to you.
Yeah, that's our campaign.
Yeah, no, I mean it's really fascinating. So where do you get your energy and your drive from?
I don't know. I'm just a little bit I always have been. I'm quite tenacious, and if I want to do something, I will just do it. And if I decide that I will do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I don't subscribe to sloppy work. So once I'd started it, I was a bit like, even there were very dark days where I just thought, what the hell am I doing? This is too much. I'm knackered.
You've got a young family. I was going to say, you know.
My business is now operational again. I am one of the very lucky few. My business is actually reviving. I'm absolutely shattered. You know, I just don't have it in me. You know, I've had those days, and then I've just gone, oh, have a word with yourself. Like, what is wrong with you? You've started this. You're going to finish. You know, you're going to finish this. You're going to do your best job. Just get back on the bus and, you know, get on with it, and off we go again. But I don't know where I get the energy from. I mean, I'm very motivated by people's stories. You know, there are some of them absolutely kill me. They're just.
You mean horrendous, or you mean?
And there are a few amazing positives. You know, so there's a lady called Emma Guy in the group who is an acupuncturist and runs a holistic treatment room. She lives in Runcorn. She's lovely. She did a video for us, which broke my heart, actually. It was sort of vox pops to her phone, saying the impact of all of this on her and her mental health. And it broke me when I watched it. I was like, oh. And she posted on LinkedIn recently that she had treated her first patient since lockdown. She was now allowed to open for emergency work. And she had treated someone, and they'd come in with a 10 out of 10 pain score, and they'd left with a 3 out of 10. And I just literally burst into tears. And I thought, I've never met this woman. What, you know, what is wrong with me? But
the thing is that when you are a campaign leader, you sometimes forget the power and the influence that you create. And it's not until you see videos. There's lots of people who will think very, very highly of all of you, never had the chance to meet you, but because what you've done is you've created a community that has allowed them some solace, it's allowed them an opportunity to still remain positive, even in the darkest hours, you know, when people are faced with, you know, untold debt, you know, because I think even the way this is going on at the moment, you know, we're offered loans and we're offered mortgage and rent holidays, but that's not replacing income, is it? It's just it's not grants. Exactly. Yeah, and all that's doing is just you know, I'm guessing there are people out there that will say, you know, it's just easier to liquidate the business.
It's happening every day, and I had a roundtable call yesterday with the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, or the other way around, ACCA.
Okay, yes, I know.
Lead for business Sarah Olney, as senior member of the team from Intuit who own QuickBooks, and a group of accountants. And I pointed out to them in no uncertain terms, people are liquidating and moving to instructing insolvency practitioners every day in group. People are making redundancies every day in group.
I'm afraid I don't. I mean, I'm a natural optimist, as I'm sure you are, but I'm afraid I think there's still worse to come.
Oh my God, yes. And I said this, it's going to be an avalanche. It's going to be a tsunami of job losses.
It is.
So it's 1.94 million small limited companies, and they employ collectively 7.53 million people. So when the Chancellor does his summer statement and says, right, we're going to revive hospitality because we're going to do this eat out to help out in August, you know, £10 voucher thing, that's an absolute vote winner with anybody who doesn't run a small limited company, because they go, amazing, because that helps, you know, that helps my pocket.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't begrudge the hospitality industry that money at all, because they are screaming for it. But the reality of a sector specific deal saying, well, that will help that sector, isn't accurate, because within hospitality, there's a proportion of small limited companies that won't even touch the sides with. So blanket statements about, well, we're going to, you know, the 1.57 billion that have been given to the arts. Again, within the arts, there's a massive proportion of small limited companies that may or may not benefit from it. And actually, when you talk to the accountants yesterday, they were saying, things like the Eat Out to Help Out scheme actually is a further burden on a small limited company, because they have to join a system, regulate a system, and the reduction in VAT for the tourism industry, that for a micro business presents an opportunity but a threat, because they have to then adjust all of their bookkeeping systems and their VAT. They have to keep different records. They have to have there's cost associated with all of this. So the headline is that that's brilliant for the economy, but the reality for us, the people that have to deliver that in a micro business, it's a hard cost to you to benefit from that, if you see what I mean.
No, absolutely. Right. So now I'm going to give you a job, and your job is the Chancellor, and you have an unlimited budget.
I just scraped through my maths GCSE, so I'm guessing your recruitment process wasn't very rigorous, but okay, I'm accepting the job. Go on then. What would you do? What would you do right now for our GB economy? So some of the things he did in this summer statement, I agree with. Kickstarters, apprenticeships, absolutely. I've been banging the drum for the lost generation throughout this whole process. I pitched an idea to Sky News, actually, because small limited companies often have apprentices, plumbers and electricians take apprentices, and those opportunities were gone. And I could see very clearly that for youth and for kids, the world was getting narrower. So the Kickstarter, the apprenticeship, all of that stuff, I agree. Done. The £1,000 to bring someone back from furlough, nah, don't agree, because I think there'll be loads of people who would have brought those staff back anyway, and I think there'll be loads of people who that's just irrelevant for. In fact, I've seen media releases of people saying that it's going to cost me £1,600 to access that £1,000, so it doesn't stack up. So I don't know, I think that was a bad idea. I think they need to focus some budget and resource on small businesses. 7.53 million people going unemployed is catastrophic. So that will damage our tax. It will increase our welfare costs, and it will put a massive burden on the NHS, because the mental health bill will be incredible. Absolutely. So they need if they can do sector-specific deals for the arts and for hospitality, they need a sector-specific deal for small business, because small business actually crosses every sector, right? So it isn't really a sector-specific deal, but you understand what I mean. A ring-fenced fund to save small business, because that will boost every sector of the UK economy. And it could, I mean, micro business alone is 3.9 million employees. And micro businesses are the most vulnerable. These are started at the kitchen table. It's 0 to 9 employees. But these are the Dyson, the Cambridge Satchel Company, the Joe Malone of the future. So if these are allowed to die now, the future damage to our exports, our taxation, our British brand, all of that, death knell. So they need to decide a pot of money, however much that might be, and say this is to save small business and the millions of jobs. Do you think that digital transformation that has clearly been advanced hugely will give us an opportunity on a global stage like we haven't had perhaps before? In other words, those businesses that do have an online perspective, that have moved to an online business very quickly, suddenly have much wider opportunities than just UK. In other words, it's given them the chance to think about, right, well, our product could be shipped to Scandinavia. CBI will be loving this, won't they? British exports hopefully should grow. I mean, we have a magician in our group, Magic Matt. He's amazing, and he has a magic cabin at the bottom of his garden, and he's been doing Zoom magic shows and Zoom birthday parties, and he said he's now doing them for people in Japan, America, all over the place. So he gets up at 4 in the morning and goes down the end of the garden in the cabin. Does magic show. He's amazing. He never would have picked up that business. It completely changed his business model if he wanted it to. I mean, that's my point, really, and I'm trying to, suggest things that are good that has come out of this. It's what it has done, Gina, is it's allowed a lot of people
to review their business strategy. It's allowed them to look at the people that they've got in the right roles or the wrong roles. It's allowed them to look at their marketing strategy, their customer base more broadly. I mean, I remember the last recession of 2008, 2009, and you know, at the time I was in the promotional merchandise industry, and that suffered hugely. But what it did do is there were companies within that grew rapidly because they marketed themselves. They took market share, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds.
Through a recession, every white paper I've ever read in marketing, particularly if you're in TV or radio, as I was, the brands that survive the best are those that keep marketing through the recession.
100%. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess to finish, what would be your lasting, something that you said, I'm really proud of? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of moments that you've been through, probably hell and back, and you've had massive highs and lows. But, you know, if you could succinctly say, what's the biggest achievement that has come out of Forgotten Ltd, what do you think it would be?
There are so many. I mean, we've stopped people from committing suicide.
Wow. Pretty big.
Pretty big.
That's enormous.
Mm.
I don't know how to react to that.
Twice. Yeah.
Wow, Jay, that's amazing. Yeah. You are quite an amazing person, I have to say. Yeah.
It wasn't me, actually. It was members of the team, but just us being there, and engaging with them, and calling the appropriate services. They're still with us.
Wow.
What else? I've been on the BBC 10 o'clock news. If you want the other end of the scale, if you want the fluffy stuff, you know, whoever thought that I would be on BBC News at 10? I mean, that's bananas. I've been quoted in the Sunday Times a number of times, although they consistently insist on printing my age. Why would you do that to a woman in her 40s? Why would you do that? Anyway, House Style, they say Broadhurst, and then they say your age. And I feel like I'm in a private boys boarding school or something being called Broadhurst. It's a bit odd. So, you know, that's
pretty amazing.
What else am I proud of? It will be really interesting to go to the Treasury and present the petition. It really is silly moments. It's like when Mel Stride and the Treasury Select Committee unanimously announced in their interim report that they agreed with us and that we had been left unsupported and we did deserve financial support based on our whole income, and it should be backdated to March, which is credence for what I've spent 3 months doing. They used our hashtag, and I know that's really ridiculous, but to see the Treasury use hashtag Forgotten Ltd repeatedly makes you go, okay, they are listening to us.
Yeah. I know. Yeah,
we have made an impact.
You absolutely have made an impact, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, we just need the Treasury to actually do what the Treasury Select Committee recommend now. Just that small step. We're just that small step away.
It's been lovely to have a chat with you, and thank you very much for your time today.
That's no problem.
Thank
you.